Hey everyone, my name is Jay. I'm the host of Kingdom Builder TV. Thank you so much for coming by today. And I'm excited about my guest today. Her name is synonymous with music over the last 70 years, her father being the legendary Pat Boone. But I am excited to have Lindy Boone Michaelis joining us today. Lindy, how are you doing today?
I'm doing really well. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, we're happy to have you. And, you're one of four sisters. You have your sister, Cherry, Debbie, and Laurie. And, to observe the elephant in the room, obviously, you are the daughter of Pat and Shirley Boone. And of course, your dad being the legendary recording artist, actor, and author. I know you're probably asked this a lot, but, what was it like growing up with a father who, had immense popularity when you were growing up?
Yeah, I think that we all kind of knew that our dad was famous because we couldn't go anywhere without people recognizing him. But when we were home, he was just daddy. We still call him daddy. We're all, many decades later, but he's daddy. He was very involved. He was traveling a lot because of his career, but when he was home, we were out in the yard playing. He was always very focused on taking time when he was in town to play with us in the pool, in the backyard, to get into imaginary friends and, making up games. So I think we had a pretty normal childhood in the middle of this unusual environment, which was Beverly Hills, California, and the entertainment world.
Yeah, so he was able to turn that fame factor off when he got home and really focus on you. And I think that's really a testimony of, what kind of person he is and a dad to you guys. I think that's amazing to hear that.
Yeah, he is a multitasker. He gets so much done in a day. He kind of takes too much on, and gets so busy. But he finishes things, he completes things, and he always goes through it with a very easygoing attitude. So he didn't, feel like he was under a ton of stress. He was just gliding from one thing to another, and always treated people very kindly and not like he was something better than anybody else. I remember feeling that he was super nice to everybody from all walks of life. And that's what I think my parents tried very hard to instill in us, is how to treat people and not to get all feeling because you're famous or you live in a certain area that you're better than anybody else.
Yeah, and that's definitely the impression that I got from him after talking to him. I very much enjoyed that conversation. And he was telling me about the stories and stuff about, how he got started and stuff. And I'm kind of curious, obviously you have your own stories and stuff. Do you remember any occasions when you were younger where you had just, a celebrity show up at your house or somebody that, wow, I've seen you on TV or I've seen you in a magazine?
Yeah, I know that we were surrounded by people in the entertainment business, and um, we remember. I remember it more by storytelling than my actual memory of bumping into Elvis at an airport, and Daddy was visiting with him, and they knew each other. He knew almost everybody because of when you reach a certain level, you go to all these awards and events, and you meet other people that are in the business. So he was in movies. He met a lot of people along the way, and some of them became friends, and um, not necessarily all household names, but people would remember Gavin McLeod from Love Boat. He was a good friend. He and his wife were really good friends with my parents. Um, he was friendly and friends with Larry King down the street. But we lived in Beverly Hills where there were so many people. Across the street was Barry Manilow, and down the street was Meatloaf. I'm not saying they walked over to our house and borrowed a cup of sugar, but we lived on the block. For a little while, the Osbournes lived just over the wall from my folks, and they really liked my dad. But I was already moved out of the house by that time. Fabian, I don't know if you go that far back, you're young. There was a contemporary of my dad's named Fabian. And I remember we somehow got an iguana, a pet iguana from Fabian. So, but we got to meet a lot of our our idols. Back in the day, there was the Partridge Family. I remember we got to meet David Cassidy. My sister, Debbie, actually became friends with Sean Cassidy. And but if we had somebody that we met the Beatles, but again, that was at a concert. We were allowed to go backstage and meet them. So yeah, we moved in those circles. But it wasn't every day. It was always very exciting for us. I'm a starstruck person, as you can know. I love meeting people from movies that I love or music that I love. So,
Too, yeah. Yeah, I
mhm.
think it's the proof that the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. You and your sisters have definitely have that gift and talent that your, father has, being singers in your own right. Um, how did that, play a role in getting you to where you are now?
Well, I sang a lot with the family. And then when I hit in my early 20s, started having kids, our group as a family act kind of had to spread out um, and fade off because we started moving and having children. So my life as a singer and entertainer was mostly in the early stages. But then I got asked to sing with another singing group when I was, I think, in my early 40s, late 30s. And I joined a group that had three other women. And I just moved right into the alto part. I fit into the dress. And it was like singing, not quite like singing with my sisters, but three women, tight harmonies. We didn't travel all the time. It was just enough so that I could still feel that energy and that fun of making harmonies and making and entertaining people. We did that for a very long time. And then that had to come to a close for me because of my son's accident, which interrupted my life back in 2001. So at that point, I stopped singing probably for 5 years. Didn't know if I'd ever go back to it, but eventually got back in the singing group. By the way, that the name of that group was the New Chordettes, and we did everything from the 40s, the 50s, and the 60s surrounding girls groups. And the Chordettes had the hits "Lollipop" and "Mr. Sandman" and certain other oldies but goodies. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that kind of brings us to your latest project, which is a single called Wordlayer. And this is something that you collaborated with Ann Buckle on. And if I'm not mistaken, she has her own legendary lineage, being linked to the Carter family and Johnny Cash. And
Yes.
this is not only a song full of hope, faith, and unity, but it was an opportunity for your sisters and you to get back together and sing this. Tell us about this song and the inspiration behind it.
Well, my daughter, Jessica, gave me a beautiful gift for Mother's Day. And this was during 2020 when everybody was sitting 6 feet apart outside. And she gave me a card. And in it, it was a gift certificate or just the appointment to go on Zoom and write a song with a Nashville musician. She said, "Mom, Airbnb is not doing business as usual. They can't rent spaces. They're selling experiences." So she gave me a few experiences, and this was the third one of three. And I thought, wow, this is such a cool idea, but I don't write songs. I've never written a song. So I've learned other people's songs and sung with my sisters, and I love singing. But I had to really pray about it and say, God, can you help me have something to contribute? And what came to mind was the title, Wordlayer. It was something that I had used when I had written a book, and I had to have a Twitter account, and I had to come up with a username. And so much of what I learned after my son had a tragic accident and incurred a brain injury was the importance of the words I speak and the power that they have, and that we are co-creators with God. And He created everything through His word. And I started to see the importance of minding my own words because they're energetic, they have frequency, they change things. And so during my journey of my son's brain injury, which was long and emotional, heartbreaking. I learned to care about what I say and watch it and speak intentionally. And so that's where the song Wordlayer comes from. I got the title and then I just thought I'd better write out what I mean by this so I can share with Anne what Wordlayer means to me. And it all came through me as lyrics. So first a chorus showed up and I wrote it all down. As I kept writing, I had the next verse and then the next verse. So basically, when I sat with her on a Zoom call like we're doing now, I said, here's a starting point and do anything with it that you want. But I think Wordlayer is a good title. And she said, I don't think I want to change the words at all. And she just started coming up with the melody as we sat on Zoom. So I just love this song because not only did it turn out beautifully, it it feels like it was a gift to me, not just from my daughter, but a divine gift
Mm.
because I've never written a song before. And the words flowed out through me onto paper. And then she was able to put a beautiful melody behind it. And then when I started playing it for people just randomly, it lived in my computer and I thought it was worthy of sharing. And I would share it with people after having meaningful conversations with them, and it started to speak to them, and I would see how people were reacting to the song. And I played it for my dad and for his record company executive that just loved it and asked if we could do something with it. So at that point, took a little while, but I coordinated with my sisters to fly to Nashville and record the background vocals. And what turned out is a beautiful song that a lot of people are resonating with.
Yeah, and it really is a great song. I mean, the harmony between you and your sisters on the song is incredible. I mean, I can think of a couple different, female groups that have really been a blessing to me over the years. Point of Grace is one of them in the Christian market. One of my favorites was Wilson Phillips in the mainstream music markets. I mean, I immediately thought of those two groups when I heard this for the first time. I'm like, the harmony was absolutely stunning between you and your sisters. And you've kind of you did the music video for it where you guys are all putting this together, and
Mhm.
you even your dad appears in the video as well. And I know that by the look on his face, he looks to be very proud of you and your sisters for everything that you guys have accomplished outside of his fame.
Mhm. Well, he's always put the most importance on who we are as people, not so much on what we accomplish,
Mhm.
but he is proud of us. And my mother, I can't get through an interview without mentioning she's the one who taught us to sing. My
Mm.
dad has the career. My mother heard the harmony. She used to sing in groups and with her sisters, and her mother sang with her sisters. So she just was able to teach us at a very young age to hear harmony. And we loved, the more complicated the harmonies, the more we loved learning it. And so we all attribute it to my mother. Um, the ability to hear and sing harmonies, but then also just being genetically connected. There's a blend, a tone that we all share, and we pronounce words the same way. We take breaths at the same time. It just is a beautiful thing when a family is able to harmonize.
It is, and your mom had a great teacher herself with her father, a legend in his own right, Red Foley. I mean, it's amazing how that just goes down. Yeah, that you just teach your children teach their children and stuff, and here we are today, a representation of everything that our parents poured into us. And you mentioned as a parent, as a mom, your son Ryan had gone through a horrific brain injury. And I wanted to talk about that for a moment because there's a organization that you run called Ryan's Reach, which does amazing work in helping other families that may have, experienced something similar. And I wanted you to just take a moment and, talk about Ryan and talk about Ryan's Reach and what uh, how you got that started.
My son Ryan was my firstborn. He was 24 years old. He was 6'4". He was a handsome guy, but just inside, just a heart of gold. and he was engaged to be married. And his life was right, all set out before him, finished college, wanted to make movies, wanted to write and direct. Then in 2001, June 19th, he stepped on a skylight on the roof of his apartment building. And he was just going up there with his roommate to get some sun. And his foot stepped on it instead of over it, and it broke, and he fell 3 stories.
Mm.
And that is the moment that just changed all of our lives radically. They didn't expect him to live. He was rushed to UCLA Medical Center, and that just launched us into a very trying period of time. It just went on and on and on, because not everybody recovers quickly from a brain injury. Some people wake up quickly from a coma. Ryan's coma was very long, and after he was deemed out of a coma, he couldn't do anything. So it was a very long journey and painful, because you just always hear about things happening to other people. Then when something tragic happens to you, it takes you back to the beginning of, what do I really believe? And how am I going to get out of bed and face it another day? So over the first year and a half, Ryan did make enough recovery that he was conscious. His smile came back. His voice came back after 15 months. I didn't hear his voice, but finally we started to get some sound. He had a feeding tube for almost 2 years. So we started Ryan's Reach out of gratitude of all the progress that he made, and also all the love and the goodwill and the prayers pouring out from people all over the world. We had told our story on Larry King Live 5 times. Larry had us on, tracking Ryan's progress. And it just seemed like, because my dad was famous, we could take what happened to us. We shared our faith on the program, and we were raw. We were just open with everything that was going on. And we wanted to reach out with this notoriety and help people in our situation, because we knew that we had the ability to amplify brain injury and try to help other people. So we started Ryan's Reach, started raising money, started providing therapy for people in our local area to go to a place called High Hopes Head Injury Program and get amazing therapy that they provide there. And then later, over time, we've been doing this for 20 years, but we started 2 group homes so that people with brain injury can actually live in a residential environment in a neighborhood, rather than be placed in a home for the elderly, which is what was happening more times than not. So we've been able to make a difference, and we do that out of love and gratitude. And Ryan's life is making a difference, and we're just really proud of it.
That's amazing. Yeah, I was reading up on that, and it's amazing the kind of work you can do out of something as tragic as that. And I commend you and everyone working with you for something like that, because like you said, until you go through something yourself, you have no idea how it affects you, how it affects your family and everyone around you. And the fact that you guys stepped out in that tragedy and were able to help others, I mean, that's amazing.
So people can find us at ryansreach.com, and you can read about what we do. But there's also, I just started my own podcast called TBI Talk, because we were, as a board, talking about what else can we do to reach out. And we hadn't entered that arena yet. So I am able to talk to people that have their own stories about TBI and offer hope and offer therapy ideas. And I got to do one with my sisters recently, and they talked about the siblings and the extended family and how it affects everybody.
I saw that. I was going to mention that. I said, when I was doing research for, I do research on all my interviews and everything. I came across that video, and it was an amazing conversation, because not only are you guys sisters and stuff, but just being able to talk with each other and deal with this together. And I'm sure your sisters were probably a big part of that process, or in those early days of being
Oh,
able to get through this.
yeah, we're so close. Debbie's the only one that lives in California still. Cherry's up in Washington, Lori's in Colorado, but they all contributed to my support system, and I needed them so much. Debbie showed up every single day at the waiting room at the ICU, And she'll never know the impact. I tell her, but the impact that she had by being there, a steady voice, a calm voice. And one of my friends said she watched it and she said, I just saw the interview with your valued therapists. And I go, yeah, they really are
Yeah.
therapists.
That's amazing. Well, in closing, I was telling you, I was fortunate enough to talk to your father recently. And, I've been doing interviews for over 17 years. And I have to say that even at nearly 90 years old, I know he'll be 90 on June 1st.
Yeah.
He has not lost one step. I mean, although his hip injury has slowed him down a bit, he said that when he goes up and does, he's doing a show like the day before Mother's Day, he said that he might have to use a cane or
Mhm.
sit in a chair. I'm like, brother, you have earned that right to sit in that chair if you need to. Because he was saying
Nobody
he's still
cares.
doing he's doing 90-minute shows, and like that's impressive. I said, people a quarter of your age can't even do an hour and a half show, and you're up there just schooling them and showing them how it is. But one of the questions I asked him, I'm going to ask you the same question in closing, is about legacy. We all want to leave a legacy, whether it's a legacy we leave for our children, for our family and friends, fans, coworkers, and all that. So my question is, when your days are done here and we've all gone on to be with the Lord, what is the thing that you want people to remember you for the most? What do you want your legacy to be?
I hope people remember that I valued time with people. My love language, I think, is time. And to be able, I pray all the time, Lord, let me be interruptible. Um, I think that's such a gift that you can give people. And that I also hope that people will see that kindness is such a high value, to treat people kindly. And I try to instill that in my own children. And I try to remember to treat people kindly. But I got that modeled for me with my parents, spending time, be kind. Um, I keep my faith pretty simple, love God and love others, and just be willing to stop and share in other people's journeys.
Amen. I couldn't have said it better myself. Well, Lindy, thank you so much for joining us today. We greatly appreciate you coming by. And I'm just praying that the Lord can continue using these things like Wordlayer as a way to bring people closer to Him. And I'm praying for Ryan's reach, that you can reach even more people for that. So thank you so much for coming by today. It was a pleasure talking to you, and God bless you.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed it.